your purpose.
Yep.
You know, it's like, I forgot who it was, but someone said, you know, if you want to make more money or have more success, have a kid.
Have more kids.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's not.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Break It Down with Braydon. I got Matt Weber on with me today. Matt, thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. Matt and I have known each other, I think actually since you kind of got started in the industry, maybe 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, about 5.5.
Yeah. Matt's a lender with Fairway Mortgage and just making a good name for himself out in the community and just crushing it out there. And just wanted to have you on and kind of chat a little bit.
Yeah. Again, thanks for having me. And that was in the very beginning of my career.
Yeah.
If I could, fast forward and see what that looked like now, it's just wild. I think we were going to like the broker opens or the luxury home tour, and I'm like, how do I do this? Like, what? How do I get business? Like, how is this going to work? Just anything possible. And to see us, 5 years from now, it's pretty cool.
It is cool. Yeah, come a long way.
Yeah.
Tell a little bit about yourself, kind of how you got started in the industry, how you got to Fairway, things like that.
Yeah, so I got started about 11 years ago. I started on a team, and I knew I wanted to do something more than what I was doing at the time. I was working at this place called My Fit Foods, and I worked my way up in management, and it just capped out quick. It's like I wanted to do something in business.
Okay.
Got an opportunity to work on a team for my old boss, Justin Haynes, and I think he brought me on for more of a sales side, and I quickly gravitated towards like figuring things out in the back end of it.
Yeah. Like
making files run and structuring things so that we could solve problems. And then, 5 years later, I'm helping manage the team, and I'm like, okay, if I can crack this code of like when you're on a team, it's not against him or anything like that, but when you're on a team, you think that there's some magic in that person you're working for. Like you could never do what they do. And I'm like, I don't think I could sell. I don't think I could make that work.
Yep.
And then I just got to this point where I'm like, maybe I can. And I got an itch started. I'm like, I got to scratch it. And so I decided to go off my own. And it was, we had the twins at the time. So we've got twins, one with a heart condition. So it's like extra maintenance. And my wife was actually pregnant while I decided I was going to go switch from this nice salary and bonus to 100% commission.
Yep.
And I just made it work. Hitting open houses, meeting anyone I could. I was, dropping into everyone's DMs, like everything you could think of. I was like, I got to make this work. And it quickly picked up. It was with follow-ups and just putting myself out there, and then just meeting the right people and working hard. Yep. And it tumbled into, I've got, for the rankings last year, for Fairway Southwest or Fairway Arizona, it's like LOs with teams less than 2 people, I was the number 1 spot.
Love it.
So in 5 years, it was cool to do that because I busted my butt in the beginning, and I still do, but just on the prospecting side.
Yep.
It was an interesting transition.
I love it. Congratulations, man. That's incredible.
Thank you.
I know you brought up your daughters and or your kids and stuff, and I know you mentioned Zoe has her heart condition and stuff.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about that because I know that was kind of a huge driving force for you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll just go into it, kind of as in depth as I can, because that was a lot of my story.
Yeah.
I learned a lot about myself through that process. So when my wife Krista was 18 weeks pregnant with the twins, we knew it was going to be boy-girl twins. We had already gotten that point. It was an 18-week checkup, and that was like the worst day of our life. We go in for this. Actually, it was actually scheduled wrong, and our regular ultrasound tech, she's like, you know what? I'm just going to look at the hearts right now, and we'll just do a regular checkup, and then we'll get you in for the full anatomy scan. Well, she starts doing that, and it was like went longer and longer and longer. We're like, what's going on? And then she calls in the doctor, and then all of a sudden, like, hey, you guys got to go to this high-risk OB. And we're like, what does that mean? And, there's like this like hour or 2 hours of like, you have to do something with this time. We have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
And then between that, there was that time that passed. And then at the actual high-risk OB, it's probably like 3 hours of ultrasounds. And then they come in and they tell us, twin B has a congenital heart defect. It looks like it's going to be HLHS, hypoplastic left heart syndrome. Basically, she has half of a heart. And, I think the immediate response of a parent at that point, or to be parent, is like, well, that's not a big deal, right? Because I'd heard of like holes in the heart. You just automatically throw this response out of
figure
like,
it out.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. And the lady was like, it's a severe heart defect. And it was really nice of her at first. I was like, man, this lady is kind of being harsh, but she was giving us realistic expectations.
Yeah.
And then we do some research on it. Like, man, this is crazy. She's going to have half of a heart. And the nice thing there was that, we went and saw all kinds of doctors, got different opinions, all that stuff. Went to Phoenix
flying
Children's.
all over the country and stuff.
Yeah. And while she was pregnant, we were able to, take that news while it was calm. Baby's still in the belly, right? Baby's still in the belly, and figure out a plan. And that part kind of sets the precedence for everything, because after that high risk OB, Krista was between jobs and she didn't have insurance. And I'm like, we were cash paying a lot of the stuff for the pregnancy, because we're like, we'll figure this out till she gets on insurance. We're like, we need to figure this out now.
Yeah.
So I call my HR, and like, we can get her on your insurance, but it's going to be really tough because there's not really circumstances. We'd have to do like domestic partnership. I'm like, listen, this is on a Wednesday. I'm like, if I'm married by Sunday, can I get her on my insurance? She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay.
Good to know.
Yeah. So we go to the courthouse that day.
Oh, no way.
Yep. Get the marriage license, call some dude in Sedona that was going to do, officiate it or whatever, and went and bought a suit, and she got a dress, and we went to Sedona that weekend and got married.
I love it.
Yeah. And it was like 4 people at our wedding. It was like but for us, it was like, okay, here's what's going on. We named her as well.
Yep.
We found out, we was like, this is Zoe. She's a person. She's going to be a thing, right? And that set the precedence for how our attitude is going to be. It's a positive attitude, and we're going to do whatever it takes. And I mean, where we are today, she's had 3 major open heart surgeries, which is a 3-phase surgery. It was supposed to happen like that. And this last one it was just a cath, but they did do some reconstruction in there. But she's done great. And I do think part of that is keeping a good attitude. And that carried in a lot to my work.
Yeah.
You have a decision when you're a dad in those situations of, are you there every moment while it's tough and letting other things go, or do you put your faith in like, this is going to work out, and you have to make sure when you get out of there that Zoe's got a great life.
Yep.
And it was tough, but I was right back to work. I would sleep at Phoenix Children's when she was first born. I'd sleep at Phoenix Children's and then go to work. And my wife was at Scottsdale. He was so chaotic. But it was like the coolest thing, because it's like, you bring that to today, we're in this crazy real estate market and lending's all crazy. It's all screwed up with interest rates. And I'm like, dude, that's just money. If I get too pulled into that, like, stress or worry about what's going on in business, I can pull back to like, dude, it's been a lot worse than that. You've been through worse stuff, Yep.
No, it puts it all in perspective for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I first met you, it was definitely a huge driving factor as to like how you had to be successful, and you're doing this for her and the family and stuff, and it was refreshing to see that, and you could see you definitely had a passion behind it, and it had to be successful, and you made it successful, so kudos to you for doing so.
I appreciate that. Yeah. It was really a cool journey, and I was able to learn quickly. It was like there was more to it. Like, my purpose was so big, and I'm sure you're you being a dad now, you realize it's like, people tell you your life's going to change. Some people are like, oh, it's going to be tough. Say goodbye to this, whatever. But what they don't tell you is like how much it's going to change, as in like your purpose.
Yep.
It's like, I forgot who it was, but someone said, if you want to make more money or have more success, have a kid.
Have more kids.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's not like, oh, because you have to afford the kids. It's like, no, because your purpose goes up that much more.
Yep. Yeah, it gives you a reason to actually be working hard, and as opposed to like, all right, I want to buy myself some nice things. It's like, all right, I want to actually provide that lifestyle for my children and be able to give them anything they ever want and never have to tell them no. And anytime they ask for something, and be able to give that to them and stuff. It's huge.
Yeah. And leave a legacy too.
Yeah, exactly.
Leave that behind for them, because your purpose is that much bigger.
Yep.
So.
Back to business. Talk a little bit about kind of your team, kind of your systems and processes and stuff. I know that's big for you.
Yeah. So right now I actually started a branch. I started a branch, and all this chaos, and there's a whole crazy thing to that. And the timing, right when I decided to do that, it was like everything was like, it was around June, July-ish. And right now we're just running slim. It's me and my assistant Shanley. We also have Tracy Tucker, and I know Tracy Tucker.
Yep.
She's on biz dev and processing team and all that stuff.
Tracy's a rock star.
Yes, she's awesome. And right now I'm glad that we're that slim because it works and our production's ramping up. And I know a lot of other people in our business are having to do layoffs, and it's rightfully so.
Yep.
There's no like, oh, you're just trying to get more money. It's like it's skinny for us, and we've got our process so dialed. I'm still on the front end. I'm still taking applications and phone calls coming in. She's on the back end making sure it goes contract to close, and we've got that dialed. And then, with the volatility and everything, I'm just investing most of my free time into working on the social media stuff and, and managing a lot of that marketing side. It's kind of like, I know it's going to be tough getting through this. I knew it would. And you either are a victim to it, or it's like, this is where I push through. And I'm like, things have to be sacrificed. And it's a lot of free time. Yeah. And people don't see the back end of it. Like, he helped me with the setup, and I'm like, I'm going all in on this. My wife's like, hey, when do we start watching Netflix? I'm like, hold on, 2 hours later, I'm still like working
more videos,
on stuff.
right?
Yeah.
Editing, yep.
Yeah, and it's not like it switched very quickly from fear to like, this is cool, this is exciting. Like, I like this. There's an extra energy in that. It's like that wake up before your alarm clock energy.
Talk a little bit about the changes that you made on your social media. So what all of you really implemented and stuff.
Yeah, so I would say the biggest thing is trying to think of what that pivot was, like when that happened, when I was like, okay, I'm going all in on this. It started with just using my phone and doing more like business specific stuff, which I was afraid of. I'm like, I don't want my friends to be like, oh, Matt's talking about mortgage again. Yep. And there's a whole story to that. But I started putting that stuff out, and then I started getting more feedback from it. And I got feedback on the platforms. They started to get a lot of views. Yep. And then a lot of feedback outside of it.
People actually commenting or telling you as you're speaking with them or whatever, like, hey, I actually saw your videos or whatever. Good job.
Yeah,
like that.
And that's the part there's no metric for that.
Yeah, right.
You have to feel that metric. You have to be out. And I got more of that, and I was like, okay, this is working. Yep. Let's keep doing that. And, in our business, all you hear is you got to be doing more video. You got to be doing more social media. And so when you are doing that, you're around people that know they need to be doing it more. Yep. And all of a sudden you have the key to that because you're doing it. And then I guess a pretty big pivot in there. I'd always had a professional camera. It was like a big month and impulse buy. It was like a $1,500 camera. And I'm like, it was for, taking pictures of cars or whatnot. Yeah. So I had that, and I'm like, let's go further on this. And I had actually seen your podcast. I'm like, man, the quality looks freaking good. Like, it looks like it's on that next level. Yep. So I'm like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And it was all part of this process of, I actually sold my GT3 RS. I haven't told anyone that. Like, I've told probably 10 people that. That was like my dream car. And I was like, okay, I've had a lot of success, but right now it makes sense to be a little more liquid and more responsible. I couldn't tell my wife to watch the bills, and I'm just being completely candid, right? Yeah. If you see me on social media, you see I'm completely open, open book. This is my life. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to part ways with this, but I'm going to be hungry as hell going into this. And so sold the car, invested more into that. And then, learning some of the video stuff that he's helped me with, it ended up being a cool hobby. Like, I like doing it. I like every new thing to learn about it and invest in that. And then it's really weird. You hit kind of this pivot. And I actually did it before I actually started using the real camera. Yep. You start and you hate hearing your voice. Yep. Like, you hate it.
Yep.
There's
so many mistakes or whatever. Yep.
But then you get to a point where you have fun making better quality stuff, and like your first try, it's like, oh, that actually rolled out really good. You actually like how you look and sound. It's weird. Yeah. And I'm sure you get that on your podcast as you're going through that. It's like you're comfortable talking about it. And then when you can actually see your comfort on film, there's like this feeling where it's like, this is actually kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, the mantra is always fake it till you make it, right? And like same thing with this stuff is like you say it enough, you do it enough, you rehearse it enough, eventually it becomes real, and you're speaking it because you actually know the content and you know what you're talking about. You have the context behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're just educated on it because you've said it enough. It's just like giving a pitch or calling cold calls or whatever. Like the first couple of times it's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to get rejections and stuff. But after you've had a couple rejections and you're used to the context of the call, you could do those all night or all day and not be worried about the rejection or worried about you're going to fumble up your speeches or whatever.
Totally, exactly. And then it goes from the script is like, you know what you need to say into now you just know key points that you need to bring up. You don't need to write that out.
Yep.
And then that's where it becomes natural. And
yeah, it's a totally different video than what you originally planned on saying or whatever, but then it's a little bit more authentic and comes out as real, and that's what people ultimately want to see.
Yeah. So yeah, that's been a lot of fun doing that, and obviously going to do it more.
Yep.
And there's just so many, like I was talking about before this, there's so many ways to leverage that. There's actually getting your views and direct consumers from it, which has been actually working surprisingly well. And then there's the people that know they need to be doing it that want your help with it. Yep. They see that you're invested in it. And if you put yourself in their shoes, it's not like you're selling them on anything. What you're doing is you're saying, I'm committed to this. I'm showing you I don't love doing this or didn't love doing this. Yep. Taking a lot of time to do it, and I can help you with it. That's all real stuff. And if someone thinks or believes they need to do more of that, then that's a huge value add.
Yep.
That's better than the magical cup of coffee where it's like, hey, I want to talk about how to grow your business. And you know how that goes. In lending, it's like, I mean, everyone's asking. I get calls all the time from my agents being like, God, these lenders are just annoying the crap out of me.
I can only do so much coffee.
God, I'm not doing that because I totally would have been doing that a couple of years ago.
Yep.
You know, just to get that meeting. But with social media, you can broadcast that bigger. And if you have the experience doing this long enough to know the ins and outs, and this is a very, very education-heavy market we're in, like, let's just go all in on this.
It's a very good point, actually. It's very heavy education right now. Everyone's trying to learn what the next thing is or learning the best lead source right now, or just there's so much education going on right now in the industry. It's imperative that we're kind of always invigorating ourselves and reinventing ourselves and staying on top of the curve of what's coming out with new stuff and all. There's always that new shiny object or whatever, and so you always got to make sure you're kind of on top of that stuff.
Totally, yeah, and it's a cool market in that.
Yeah,
definitely cool. It's comforting to have the experience in it, and I'm sure you've been in it for a while too, so you know it's like it's not as much uncertainty. It's a totally different market. This is a completely different beast. But if I were new in this, if I were like 2 years into this or a year into this, and I had to sell why you would do a buy down and refundable mortgage insurance and this, or how you can negotiate concessions or what happens in contracts, there's no way. There's absolutely no way.
Yep. Yeah, you have
maybe
to
I'm just
be
not
learning
that smart,
everything in the beginning and then all this new stuff, and then it's just constantly evolving, especially for you guys. I mean, there's just so much changing in the lending world, that's for sure, in terms of...
It's like daily.
Yeah.
Some new product comes out and you got to jump on that, or things change. And we went through a lot of that in COVID. And it's cool because you kind of get numb to it. It was in the beginning of COVID, it was like the banks started being like, no, we're not doing this. And it's like, when it first hit, we're like, shoot, the bottom fell out. It looked like it was going to completely dry up and things were going to crash. Yep. And then all of a sudden it goes the complete opposite direction. And so I think it was probably March or April, that was when I think rates started to go up. This was of 2020. And then they eventually dropped up. But when they went up, there was all this uncertainty because there were these lockdowns going on. And I had like 5 contracts just cancel in like a week and a half.
Yep.
And half of them were like real reasons. Like one of them was this lady that was working at a barbecue shop. The underwriter was going in to give a clear to close, watching the news as this barbecue shop was going out of business. I was like, no way. And then I saw it was actually, I thought she was making that up. No, she's just saying that. It was actually the case. And so you got used to saying no. You did a lot of uncomfortable stuff where you have this lady lost her job. There's no like, let me see if I can figure this out. Like, she lost her job and we're closing in 2 days. And so we got a lot of uncomfortable stuff out of the way there. Now when it's like, oh, rates went up, it's like, cool, if you want to buy a house, here's what it looks like. Here's some strategies we can use. It's not going to be about like, here, if you're looking at here's what a loan looks like today, then it's probably not going to make sense. But it will make sense if you're getting the right deal on a house and you work seller concessions and you pick it completely apart. And that's what I think I really love about this market.
Yeah, I think there's a huge amount of opportunity right now. And I've heard a lot of really well-educated individuals about that know the industry really well kind of speaking to that point of like how, like you mentioned, interest rates aren't forever per se, and if you could buy a house right now at a discount, get some concessions back, there's just a lot of opportunity right now. And so you're not having to fight over with the 10 other people making an offer on the same property. It's not selling in the first day, so you're not having to do a flash offer. You could actually make a little bit more of a decision and go in there and maybe do some inspections or do some repairs or whatnot to kind of get that property to where you want it, as opposed to just having to take everything that the seller is asking for.
Totally. It is. It's a completely different opportunity. If you can afford to buy, this is it. And like I've said on social media, it's about buying the dip. And it's not, you don't go in and buy that like a stock at market. You make that.
Right.
If you want to negotiate, now's the time. If you want to get your butt kicked in negotiating, that would have been a year ago.
Yep.
Well, it's like, hey, here's, $50,000 over asking, the rights to my first child, and you can live in the house for a year,
Exactly.
but you get a 3% interest rate.
I'm going to throw you a pizza party.
Yeah, exactly. And here's a love letter. It's like, it was crazy. And it's easy for people to forget that, because there's like this thought that you can get both.
Yep.
And that's just not realistic, because there's a very, very real housing need. And right now it's just jammed up with rates. That's when you can get in. And really what we're seeing right now, I feel like, is we're kind of hitting this bottom of there was more inventory. It's slower coming back on because people don't need to sell.
Yep.
But people need somewhere to live, and builders have slowed up building. So it's like, I don't like to push like a fear or scarcity thing, but like if you're going to buy, like I would do it like now.
Yeah, it seems like we've kind of hit the inventory threshold anyways. It definitely, like, it's going up and down like 100, 200 or whatever, but it's not like it's adding 1,000 every week like it was for a little while there. It seems like we're right around the 19,000, 20,000 mark, and it's kind of floating right there. And so like you mentioned, I think once rates kind of take back down or some other factors kind of go back in play, I think it's just going to, like the elections, I think it's going to continue to go up.
Yeah. And so like if it were like, I'm kind of on the fence, like I would do it now.
Yeah.
Like now. And we're already seeing, if you went back a month ago, you can put in a very offensive offer. And now, like I've got a client that we've been working with for like 2 or 3 months. And now he's finally putting offers in, and he's expecting to go in like at like, let's just say $500K purchase price. He's expecting to go in like $50K low and get concessions. And they just sent his offer back like at price with 3% concessions. It's like, you'll get a deal, but you're not getting that deal.
Yeah.
Because anyone that needed to sell sold. And a lot of like the iBuyers got out of the market. Yep. And they sold and they took their losses. And I think that was what really sparked a lot of it up. And I think that people looked at that as, oh, everybody's panic selling. It's like, no, it's an investor unloading their portfolio. It's just cash to them. Like, cool, we're going to take losses. Like, we got to get out of this position.
Yep.
And we felt that, oh my God, inventory's up. Here's the crash. Like, I mean, if you wanted to call it that, I guess, but it's kind of already happened, I think.
I've had a good amount of people on here that I think are educated in the space, at least, and the people that comment on them, some of these people aren't as educated as some of the guests on here that I have, at least in terms of my opinion. But anytime someone says a balanced market or, it's just a little dip or whatever, and we're going to go right back up, people lose their mind because everyone thinks that the world is coming to an end and the real estate market is crashing. Put a little context in that.
Yeah, with that, I think there's something about people outside of our business or even in our business, like that just has to get commented on. Like it has to fail. Like that's really their excuse. It's like, well, something has to correct. It's like, that's not how numbers work. Nothing has to happen. If something happens, something else will happen. And I think that there's this kind of thing where if people give that opinion and they're right, that's like a win to them. And they're like always predicting that. And I'd commented on that before of like, if you predicted that the market was going to crash every single year, nobody's going to remember every single year.
Right.
If you're right that one time, then you're going to tell everyone about that. Are you going to tell everyone when you were wrong? No. And it's just this extremely popular thing to say when people are outside of the market. And I think part of it too is they kind of attack our industry and like we're being irresponsible. And it's like, hey, our phones are ringing. People need somewhere to live. Like if you really look at the numbers, it does make sense.
Yep.
And if it really was an evil thing like people make it out to be, then people like you and I wouldn't be in this business.
Right.
Like, okay, this is bad news. We shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah, Matt's shady. He's doing crazy things, giving people loans.
Convincing people to buy homes they can't afford. Like,
Right.
Trust me, they can afford it. It's not a fun conversation, but it's a long conversation. And every other lender I'm talking to that's doing decent right now is having those. We're working 3 times as hard.
Yep.
And there's been
Educating
several
3 times as much.
Yeah, and several conversations where, a client's really on the fence, and I'm like, listen, if this isn't your number and this is too high for you, this doesn't make sense. I can't be the reason. Like, I'm not going to be the reason you get angry every time you get a mortgage payment.
Right.
I just won't do that. And everyone else that's having success through this market is having those same conversations. But then what does that do? Well, that slows up demand, so that the person that's like, yeah, I more than qualify for this house. The payment's no problem. Let's see what kind of deal we can get. There's less demand.
Yep. So
there's the deal. But we live in it, and it's really easy to comment on it.
Yep.
And I haven't got a lot of haters yet, but I'm sure as things grow,
They'll come.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, Jesus always gets the comments. He's like, "Did you see some of those this morning?" I'm like, "Oh, but I might have deleted a couple of them already." It's pretty funny.
But you know what? I was actually talking with Chelsea Pites.
Yep.
I was talking with her. We just did an event this morning, and she mentioned something a couple weeks ago. I had a question on it. I said, what do you do when you give an opinion and then someone else, some influencer, that combats that opinion or puts something out that completely goes against that opinion? She goes, that's just your opinion. You have to remember that is your opinion. If you state that that's your opinion, that's you essentially waiving your liability.
Yep.
And I thought about that for a while, and I kind of want to dig more into that and explain that more of like, your opinion, I think, should be able to change. If my opinion is that, well, I see this and this happening, that would make rates go down, and then rates don't go down. If my opinion was wrong, I think the stronger thing to do is say, listen, my opinion was wrong.
Right.
Because if you think about what an opinion is, like if I'm telling you I have a political opinion on something, if I'm telling you that, I'm probably trying to make you believe my opinion.
Yep.
So if you're trying to make someone believe your opinion, wouldn't it be like kind of the general thing that opinions can be changed?
Yeah, somewhat persuasive in context, but not necessarily fact.
Yeah, exactly. And I think as long as it truly looks like your opinion, because it's not like if you're saying facts, then I think that's fairly irresponsible. Like, rates are going down in 2 months. I think that's completely irresponsible to say.
Yep.
Like, there is no guarantee there.
Yeah, no one knows.
But you can say, it's my opinion that this and this will line up and rates would go down. And then if you're wrong, that's just your opinion. But you put it out there.
Yeah.
And I respect people just putting it out there, even if it's totally wrong and it doesn't sound intelligent at all. The fact that they put their opinion out there, to me, gives merit. Like they had the guts to do that.
Yeah.
Because I struggle with that. Like, how do I keep it away from having an opinion? I'm like, I know I have to go more into that. Like, giving my opinion of things and then getting the haters.
Yep.
Like, I almost have to step into that.
We've been posting some stuff that is more controversial just for that, actually, of like, okay, this is going to get a lot of the haters.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can get a lot of comments and just kind of see what they say. That way we could kind of stem up a little bit more viewership, if you would.
More viewership, more topics.
Yep. Yeah, because if it's debatable, if it's a debatable subject, then there's going to be a lot more context or a lot more content or comments on it, and
it'll just keep moving.
Keeps moving,
yeah, and I like that, because then you get new future content from that, as long as you don't take it personally.
Right.
But I think it goes back to what we originally talked about, is just repetition of doing it more and more. I have to step into the hater world. I hate it, but I know I have to, and I have to give more opinions. Plus, there's endless stuff to teach about mortgages and little tricks and tips and stuff like that. But there's even more about opinions of what you think people should do, what they shouldn't do.
Yep.
And I think that's that just opens up more content to put out.
Well, it's got to be tough too, coming from your industry, just being so educated in the space, and then also not knowing what the general consumer doesn't know, because I always do that too. I think like everyone should know what a title company does, but yet no one knows what a title company does. And so like just educating on the little things that we do is actually extremely informative for a lot of our demographic, when probably the same thing you're going through is like, okay, well, everyone should know this already, but like the back of your foot or back of your hand or whatever.
Yeah.
And so just kind of figuring out what that content is and what's actually valuable for the general demographic.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. And I think with that, that's where it really gets not necessarily tricky, but it gets difficult with social media, but it also puts you in an advantage. If you can get the technical, like if there's like a trick to the market, like house hacking or something like that.
Yep.
If there's a trick to the market and you can communicate that to a consumer, that means you have dumbed it down and you've made it interesting and it's actually intelligent. And what you see in our business, and I don't mean to talk, it's not directly to any competitor, but you just see it. Either someone's really slick on the phones, they can sell anything,
Yep.
or they're really smart. But to mix those two, that's where the magic is. And so if you can get it to your audience and keep it interesting, I think that's where I think a lot of the kind of promoting we see of social media, like here's what you can do to help grow your social media.
Yep.
What's left out is like, it's not just post. You got to put work into that. You got to put a lot of work, a lot of time and energy and thought into doing that. Because anytime I post something, I'm like way overthinking it.
Yep.
And then I'll start to go kind of off into, technical land. I'm like, nope, that's not going to work. I'm going to kill. Like if I didn't know anything about buying a house, I'd be like, this dude's just went over my head.
Yep.
And so what you see on social media is either just really blanket stuff. And it's like, yeah, we get it. You don't have to put 20% down to buy a house.
Right.
Everybody,
Exactly.
for the most part, knows that.
Yep.
That in itself doesn't have value. Now, someone saying why they would or wouldn't charge mortgage insurance and dissecting that and being super monotone, nobody's going to watch that. So how do you find that middle ground? And that's the space that I'm trying to get more and more into.
Yep.
Keep it interesting, but also intelligent.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of work.
It is.
It's a lot of work.
Jesus and I always kind of try to make little one-off videos, and I'm like, that looks terrible. That sounds terrible. Delete that. Change that. And it's a pain in the ass.
It is, but that's the work of it, though.
Oh, yeah.
But you keep doing it.
Yep.
And that's what I love about your podcast is it's great content. Like I love following it. And like this dude actually stuck to it. I can't tell you how many people I talk to that want to start a YouTube channel or want to start a podcast. And a lot of times they'll go a couple episodes and it just falls off.
Yep.
And you stuck to it. And I mean, that's why I connected with him. I was like, he's doing something, right? You're actually sticking to it. And I've got a lot of respect for that.
I appreciate it.
So much this is temporary, but it's like, if you have to stick to it.
Yep.
It's got to be, you got to be all in on it.
Yeah. I want to see this thing 5 years from now, just same kind of thing, just upgrade it or whatever. Like Facebook, it's like fashion or whatever, so always be evolving it and making it better. But yeah, I'm excited for where it's gone and where it's gonna go. And thank you for that.
Yeah, of course, man. No, to your point on the fashion thing, I mean, you're gonna look back on the content you're putting out now, and the podcast you do now, and be like, oh, that's pretty cringy. It's always gonna be like that. Like if you go back in fashion trends, like, what were we thinking? Go back to the 90s or whatever, like what were we thinking? It's going to look like that. And I mean, if you put yourself in the future, like what's that going to look like?
Yep.
And if you're not doing that, if everyone's saying do video and you're sitting there consuming video, you should do video.
Right.
You should be on there. You should be using this.
I mean, how many hours are people wasting a day now just scrolling through video? So it's like if you're not doing it, you're missing the boat, regardless of what business you're in. If you're in real estate, if you're in sales of any kind of sort, you should be doing video.
Yeah, because I think there's a lot of generational shift in there too.
Yep.
Because if I'm going to buy something that's expensive or really anything, and it's not something where you just go to Target to buy it, I'm going to think, okay, who do I know in my sphere? Or who do I know within social media? And you're not going to realize it, but it was the person that's been dripping on you the most.
Yep.
That's been on your stories. It's not like they're pushing their product to you 24/7, but they're more active on social media, and you give them trust. You don't ever have to meet that person in person, and I'm sure you deal with that a lot too.
Oh yeah.
Like I'll meet a real estate agent, and they'll go give me a hug, like, "Oh, it's so nice to see you again." I'm like, "Dude, I've never met you."
Oh yeah.
Like I've never met you in
right.
person.
Yep.
But they believe that they did. Like they're going to be giving a stranger essentially a hug.
It's just like I always talk about, it's like postcard mailing campaigns. If you're doing it consistently enough, the people start to think that you're their neighbor or that you're part of their community or whatever. And so it's the same thing as like the amount of posts that you're doing and staying in front of them consistently. They're going to eventually build that relationship with you. Yeah, they know you. That's one thing I love about social media, though, is like because I know what's going on in your life without having to call you every week or talk to you every day. Like I know what's going on in Matt's world where, with other back in the day, that you just didn't have anything like that. Like even Facebook, I don't feel like was like that, where now Instagram really is. Like you could, with stories and everything, you could really keep up to date with people.
Yeah, and it's cool.
Yeah.
And I get that there's obviously there's downsides to it, you know.
A lot of wasted
privacy's
time.
out the
Yep.
window,
Yep.
you know, and wasted time.
Yep.
But I think the upsides are huge.
Yeah.
And it's like it's not going anywhere. It's going to be more and more, but it is cool because you can essentially have so many more friendships.
Yep.
And I love that stuff.
Yep.
I love seeing things that my friends are doing, and I've met several people through that are my friends now through social media, you know, with the car stuff or dirt bike stuff. And it's like, I'll go meet some random stranger that I met essentially online, you know, on like Instagram.
It's easy to find similar hobbies, similar interests and stuff. That's
like
what I
good
love about it.
friends right away, rather than, you know,
What do you like to do? Oh, yeah. And like all
Yeah.
that small talk's kind of out the window. It's like, oh, actually, I already know all of your hobbies. Let's do these together.
And they're the same hobbies. Not
Yep.
like, oh, you meet some dad from school and it's like, oh, I get our wives like each other, so I guess we got to be friends.
Right.
now. You know, it's like you're just not gonna work. Like, if your two like lifestyles and hobbies just don't mix, it's like, well, how else am I going to find friends?
Yep.
But this is cool because you can, like, you know, if you have those things similar, you guys are going to be good friends. If you have better friendships.
Yep.
I think there's a lot of upside to it.
Yeah, I love it. What's on the horizon for the Weber team?
So I've been pretty quiet about my branch, and I want to get that growing. I want to bring on some talent.
Cool.
So
Looking for LOs?
Yep.
Okay.
Looking for LOs. It's tough right now because, to be completely frank, a lot of them aren't going to survive it.
Yep.
And so it's tough to invest in that. And so really, I would say for now, like, that's going to be probably a few months down the road. For now, it's just invest super heavy in what's working. And social media's been working. Keeping really close relationships with my agents has been working, because if that's going to work and pull through this, which it's proving to, then that to me would be a big sell to a potential candidate, to someone that would come in and be like, hey, listen, if you want to step your social media game up, if you want to learn from me, I'm going to teach you these tools. I have them in-house. We've got this set up. I'm going to hold you accountable to it. Let's do it. I think I'm still a little new into it, but as I refine that more and more, I do believe that's going to be a value add.
Yeah.
And if I can do that through this market where I'm seeing the numbers, and we're ramping up. I think we've got like 10 deals in the pipeline for November.
Love it.
For like almost 7 million. And that's coming off of like just lousy months for us before. It was like $1.5 million, $2 million. For us, that's low. I mean, if you go back to 2021, I almost closed 10 million, I think, in October.
Yep.
And we were averaging 16 loans a month. That dropped to like 4. And I'm just saying that because everyone else is doing it. If someone's saying, oh no, we're just absolutely killing it, I'm like, you're just saying that.
Yeah, no, you're lying.
Everyone's feeling that.
Yep.
So if I can push through this, then that's just going to grow more credibility. And I'm really about, growing organically. So I know those relationships will come, and just putting it out there more. But that would be the next step is grow the branch. But for now, it's just focus on this stuff. And I like this market. I like the problem solving in it. It's super labor intensive, but I love it. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for where things are going right now, and like you said, I think it's gonna weed out a lot of people in the industry, which is probably a good thing right now. There was a lot of people that thought it was this easy industry to jump into in the last couple of years because they've seen the successes that a lot of their friends have had, and I think there's a lot of that getting weeded out right now, and you're definitely seeing it, and a lot of companies are starting to do a lot of big layoffs and stuff. Definitely seeing that in my industry. I feel like every day there's some new title company that's laying off a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Or shutting their doors even. There's been a lot of that lately. So it's
cleaning up a lot of stuff.
It is.
It's like the gold rush is over, but there's still gold.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
You
You just got to sharpen your pickaxe a little bit more.
The past couple of years, it was like it's like record month after record month, and you just know it's an extremely hot market. And on mortgage, we knew it was extremely hot. Rates should have never been that low. And so although the big months were cool, you just always know, lurking on the other side, that this isn't going to keep up.
Yep.
And so now that it's dipped, I like it because, yes, it could get worse. So what? I've already accounted for that. But now we get to look forward to it getting better. And that feels so much better. Significantly less income, but it feels so much better.
Yep.
When you know it's going to drop off, it's just like, well, how do I account for this?
Right.
Now, when you know it's going to pick up, or if it doesn't pick up, you're still good, it's so much less pressure.
Yeah, there's still
Some
plenty
trust.
of deals out there. There's just a lot. We got to fight for them a lot harder. That's for sure.
Yeah, fight for them, and you got to put a lot more work into them.
What are some of your personal goals you got coming up for 2023?
That's a really good question. Man, I don't know how I'm going to answer that.
Yeah, nothing on top of your head?
Yeah, I think I don't necessarily have them defined, but I want to, I guess I want to help more with mental health.
Okay.
I've worked really hard over the past 4 years, like really understanding what's going on in my mind. And in our business, it's a lot of, oh yeah, business is good, I'm doing good.
Yep.
But then if you bring up mental health and you get that layer down with a lot of people in sales, there's a lot of people struggling. Like I posted a reel about sobriety and it was really hard to post that. Like it was.
I commend you for doing that. Yeah, that was cool to see actually.
Like,
yeah.
I don't know how this is going to go because you get judged on that. And I'm fine with the judgment.
Yeah.
But a lot of people think if you went completely sober that you were doing heroin in an alley.
Yeah.
That was not doing heroin in an alley. But what was really cool about that is putting that out there. Dude, I had a bunch of comments and a ton of DMs.
I'm sure.
A ton.
Yeah. I bet that was probably one of your more receptive posts.
It was.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow.
Because you'd be surprised how many people, I mean, you probably know, but how many people are in the system or have gone through AA or whatever, or have some sort of crutch or whatever that they have. That just speaking to it speaks volumes because that's the first step, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I've got nothing to hide. And that was the big thing, is just complete honesty and putting that out there. Because I wanted to see what would come up with that. Because I've brought it up to quite a few people. I mean, a lot of people know, like, I'll be at an event, like, I don't drink. And then if they're, like, it's funny because a lot of them are super successful people. When I bring that up, they want to know more about it. It's like, hold on. You know, and it, like, to me, it's like, wow, this is like, this person might have a problem with this. And it's a lot of really successful people too.
Yep.
And
I mean, I always think what my lifestyle would be like without drinking, to be honest. Like I don't drink a lot, but
there's a lot of curiosity
but I
behind
drink
it.
a couple days a month or whatever, or several days a month. And yeah, I mean, how much better could I be health wise? How much better could I be mentally? And
you check yourself with it, you know, and like it, not to compare yourself, but it does help to compare yourself, you know, and for me, it was, the casual drinking got out of control and I didn't realize it because addiction does this weird thing where it just disguises itself.
Yep.
But then being open about it, the people that really need help I've had a lot of people reach out. I'm like, this is cool. This feels really cool. So I think for my personal goals, I think that's going to be something I lean into more. Yeah. Is helping people for that. And if I'm helping people in my business, let's just say it's real estate agents. I mean, think about that as from a business standpoint. If I help someone that needed it get sober, that's how do you compete with that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, oh, I've got lower rates. Like, dude, this person helped me get sober.
Right.
Like, they're not going
literally
anywhere.
Changed my life.
Yeah. So I'll do more stuff like that.
Yep, that's cool. Yeah, I've got a couple buddies that are several years in now, and I always comment on them of how impressive that is, because it's more of a sheer will thing than anything, right?
Yeah.
Because it's hard, probably, I'm sure, especially in the beginning. There's just, especially in our industry. I mean, there's so many
hard
social,
getting to that point.
So many social events. There's so many outings and stuff where it's just kind of part of the day to day almost. And so,
we see. Yeah, and on the social side of it too, that's where our business is dangerous, because addiction lives in the lies. And so, when someone's getting to that point where like, there's going to be consequences for this, I should stop. They've got some social event they have to go to. Like, well, it's going to be awkward if I don't drink.
Right.
It's so convenient to say that and then drink. So if they're going through it, like, it's really easy to say that. But when you decide to be brutally honest with yourself, that was a tipping point for me 2 years ago. It was like, I'm never going to do this again, and I'm okay with that.
Yep.
That FOMO or like that willpower, that doesn't exist. You don't need it.
Yeah. And I'm sure the social awkwardness isn't even there anymore, because
it's not. It's there when you're trying.
Right.
It's not there when you've completely given into it.
Right.
It's really weird.
Yeah.
But it's cool. And I'm like, hey, let's just open book. The more I open the book, I feel like the more things are coming in. So I'm like, hey, this is my life. I got nothing to hide. Let's get more of it out there. Because you get people to relate to it. And I'm like, cool, that's people I can help. This is freaking awesome.
Last question. Give your opinion of 2023.
God, 2023. My opinion is that rates will come down. I don't know how much they're going to come down, but that is my opinion. I do think they're going to come down. I think they'll come down before the Fed funds rate, And I think we're going to see other sectors get hit pretty hard. And I think real estate's going to slowly trend up, to be honest. I think we've hit that bottom.
Any sectors in specific you're talking about or thinking about?
Just directly from us, what I'm thinking here is as we hit this bottom, you got to think, I don't know the exact number on it, but let's just say the GDP is made up 17% of real estate activity, not real estate holdings, real estate activity. If that's 17% of the GDP and that's slowing up like it's slowed up, like right now it's really just compressed because demand is down, but supply is now going down too, which means it's just going to be stale. So if there's less transactions, you got to think less commissions for agents, less people in the business making money, less people hiring people to do work on their house. So if someone was going to fix up their kitchen after they bought a house, well, they're not buying a house now. They're not doing these things.
Yep.
So there's not a lot of activity there. So what I would think is that would roll through supply chain, and that would be, well, less materials are getting ordered. There's less demand for jobs, real estate related. Then people supplying the labor or supplying the materials are going to have an increased supply. And like, shoot, this is expensive to keep this. We got to sell this.
Yep.
How do you sell it? Well, you drop the price. But if you've cooked into the price all the raises you just gave everyone to keep up with inflation, what does that lead to?
Yep.
Sorry, dude, you don't have a job. So I could see that trickling down to, like, that's where it's kind of like we're getting the fingers pointed at us first, like, oh, look, real estate's crashing. It's like, we felt it, and I think it's going to hit other sectors. And when it does, then they'll use interest rates. They'll eventually drop the Fed funds rate, but you'll see our interest rates tip over. I think we'll probably be around the mid-5 range. And I think we'll just see a decent incline in houses. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good year. I could be totally wrong because, again, it's just my opinion. But I think it's going to be a good year. But I do think that this high rate thing, I think that's going to continue to carry probably in through to the next year, maybe into Q1, and then we'll see it ease up. I don't think it doesn't feel like it's coming to an end. Midterm elections might change that, but I feel like it's going to be a little bit longer of this.
Yep. Yeah, I feel like elections are going to play a huge role. I think one of the sectors you mentioned or didn't mention maybe is the auto industry too.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, used cars are still selling like crazy, like over sticker price. New cars are over asking price. I think once that kind of settles down as well, I think that'll kind of help everything. I think it's crazy how much cars are going for right now. But anyways.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
This was awesome. For anyone that wants to get a hold of you, how can they reach out to you?
Instagram, cell phone. So I run everything up front. So I've got a website to webergrouphomeloans.com. But yeah, just my cell phone.
Love it. Awesome. For all of your mortgage needs, guys, hit them up. Matt Weber, Fairway Group, the Weber team. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Thanks for sticking around for another episode of Break It Down with Braydon. Stick around. More to come. Thanks, guys.